is that this idea of separation seems to come from that which is single, unity. Just as there is, when there are two single beings, they also want to unite. It both ways it works. Like I said, two people want to come together physically, and out of it comes one child, which again is separated from the mother.
Yes.
And then it goes. But the original idea was to come together. Then from there comes the separation.
Right.
In the same way, when something is alone and clear and only, I'm talking about the single cellular organism.
Sure.
Binary fission, what happens? It separates. We don't know whether it has a desire or what, but it separates.
Yes.
Becomes two.
Right.
Okay. A human being, in his evolved state, also when he is alone, he wants to become two.
Right. Right.
He is alone, he is satisfied, but then he wants to share his satisfaction with others.
Sure.
And then he wants another.
Sure.
So then there is again two.
Right.
So it looks to me as if from unity there is separation always coming up.
Right. Yes.
So perhaps when we understand this idea, then we may be able to go back to the unity from which it all started.
Yes. Yes.
Theoretically first.
Right.
And in the mind, when the mind is free from all separation, all conflict.
Yes.
Conflict comes only when there are two. There can't be conflict in one, right? So if this can happen, perhaps we can go back to the source. Perhaps.
Right. But it seems like, yes, just the very mechanism of life itself required separation, because this cell needs to know that it is separate and that it's separate from the rest of the universe, and through that it can actually start to split itself and split itself and split itself again. So, which is why I feel, in fact, it's so hard for us to see beyond the separation, because now as we look at the first branch, which is separation, and all other knowledge seems to branch out from our knowledge of separation. Even when we look at, mathematics and science, there's always an object and a subject. So there is an object that is acting on a subject. So immediately embedded within the mathematics itself is the idea of separation. And because of that, because all of our knowledge base is based off of this first idea of separation, we cannot see the unity beyond it until we can actually get to the point where we, in fact, somehow deep inside, even though we know we're separated, there seems to be this drive to try to reach back to the infinite. And we do it in many different ways. And as the branches grow out from you, it gets actually represented in many different aspects. When we think about the aspects of the economy, we want more and more money. And in fact, this drive for more and more money seems to be almost a drive for the infinite. No matter how much money you get, it seems like people always want more. Or if it's, between friends or whatever it is, no matter how many you have, there's always room for more. So in fact, we chase this infinity through these steps of trying to find more, but ultimately what we find is we can't reach the infinite just by going in these little steps itself.
I would think that from the point of view of my understanding of the Upanishads, also it's my experience, I would say, is that since deep down the mind is aware of its infinity
Yes.
and unity,
Right.
there is this desire to reach there inside.
Yes.
We don't recognize that, we don't see that. So we try to reach it outwardly.
Yes.
I think if I make more money, if I have more friends, if my economy increases, then I will touch that Purna, which is infinite.
Right.
But I don't find it. But why do I do it in the first instance? Because deep down, somewhere built in my brain is this idea to reach the infinite.
Yes, this desire to expand.
This desire to expand so that unity comes.
Yes.
Finally.
Right. But we're looking for it all in the wrong places. We're looking for it out there, basically.
We are looking for separation, not realizing that it is actually a desire for unity. Inside. So it's built in somewhere, but we don't see it. We look only in the complex world outside and try to find it. So again, from this may I connect and say that unity or infinity that you seek, since it is our experience that it can't be found in the outside world, at least till the life we have lived.
Right.
We don't know after that. could it be possible that it can be found if you turn and look within?
Yes.
Perhaps the source of the infinity that you seek outside is inside us. Maybe if the process is reversed.
Right.
Now, this is the meaning of saying upside down tree.
Okay. Okay. So rather than look outward, look inward to try to, get back to that unity.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that if you look in, okay, let's leave it there and come. I think the witness, the subjective witness, sometimes is more important than the objective world it sees.
Yes.
And much of what we call objective is a projection of the witness. It's a projection of the witness.
Sure.
In physics, for instance, I'm not a physicist, but what I have discussed and heard from people, and maybe read, I read less, because the whole library is there, I don't know how many I've read. But they say that there is this principle of uncertainty.
Uncertainty. Yes.
In which
the uncertainty principle.
Nobody can say whether the smallest unit of nature.
Yes, we cannot know everything about even the smallest unit of nature.
Also, we don't know if it is a particle or a wave. Even that we don't know.
Yes, yes.
So many scientists have even come to the extent of saying that maybe it depends on the observer.
Right.
Maybe. It's not fully accepted, I think.
Yes. No, it's actually getting pretty well accepted in quantum mechanics anyway.
So it depends on the observer.
Yes.
Now we have come back to this. The observer becomes more important than the observed.
Yes.
Because all that is observed is a projection of the observer through the mind.
Yes. And in fact, when we talk about this uncertainty principle, actually, part of the problem with the uncertainty principle is that as you get even to the smallest and you want to find out every detail of it, even just the concept of observing it will actually affect it.
Yes.
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 So the observer, and in fact, this is part of, and I guess this is a nice segue to talk about kind of the recursive process of fractal geometry, in that for all this complexity to happen, there's actually a recursive process. You think that there's you and then this thing, and then you are affecting this thing. But while you affect this thing also affects you. Yes.
Mutually.
So, yes, mutually. So when we talk about recursion, and let's get back a little bit to the mathematical fundamentals, and then we'll apply it to real life. Basically, I said recursion is basically a function that calls itself or a previous instance of itself. Now, when we think about that, and we think about just a simple English way of thinking about it, it basically is saying that the current version of the function is dependent on the previous version of the function. Now, and again, we'll go back to the Upanishads about this, because there seems to be, the concept for this seems to be embedded in the concept of karma itself. And, in Sanskrit, I guess karma means action. But within this...
Not only action, karma means an action which invariably produces a result.
Right. So when we look into that result, and we say, when we look at reality itself today, basically what we say is, the reality of today is dependent on the reality of yesterday and all the karma that happened in between to get it from there to here.
Yes.
So maybe from there, maybe you can talk a little bit about the teachings of karma itself. Because for me, as I was saying, embedded within all of these teachings seems to be some understanding of this recursive process and how this recursive process basically brings about this self-similarity. And really, when you think about fractal geometry, like those are actually it. That there is a recursive, fractal geometry basically just says that there's a recursive process, and out of this recursive process, self-similarity happens, and out of that, all the complexity arises, basically. Yeah.
So, what you're trying to say is that the self-similarity, by its nature, tries to form a continuum of things which are similar to it, and continues.
Yes.
I mean, this is
and it happens through a recursive process, basically.
So so now here I want to add that from the Upanishadic view point, first there is the karma. Karma simply means if there is an action, there is bound to be a reaction.
Yes.
Or if it is an action, it is definitely having a result. Now what you see today is the result of yesterday.
Yes.
What you're going to see tomorrow, you don't know, but it will be the result of today.
Yes.
But there are so many factors that you can't decide what it is going to be.
Right.
Today has many factors.
Yes.
So we are here actually left with a situation. You cannot go back to yesterday.
Yes.
No.
You cannot. No.
You cannot go to tomorrow except with your mind.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, which
you
is
can create a mental
imagination.
construct, basically,
it's
but really
speculation.
it's almost always wrong.
Speculation.
Speculation,
Yeah.
yes.
What we are left with is now. Today.
Yes.
Now. So if there is some way where we can stay with now, probably then we can find the source of this whole repetitive cycle that goes on. But we don't like to stay with the now.
Yes, we're always focused on what happened yesterday.
Yes, yesterday and what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yes.
I'm talking about the psychological process.
Yes, agreed.
And now the very desire for people to take photographs is the desire to freeze the now.
Right.
But now cannot be frozen.
Right, because it's a constantly changing process and cycle.
Moving.
Yes.
So, the Upanishad says, in a one beautiful sloka of the Upanishad says, he who worships ignorance goes into darkness. Which we'll say, okay, I understand that, because we are not ignorant, we think we are not. So, one who worships ignorance goes into darkness. Then the next sentence is from the Ishavasya Upanishad. One who worships knowledge goes into greater darkness. Now you say, what kind of a statement is this? The reason is that knowledge, any knowledge, science, physical, psychological, philosophical, any knowledge that we have, how do we say we have knowledge? Because I don't know about this particular thing.
Okay.
Let's say I don't know about what a nail is.
Okay.
I'm going to study it. I have studied it.
Yes.
Now when I say I've studied it, what does it mean? It has gone into my memory.
Yes, it's a previous iteration, really.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I have understood it. Understanding is important. After that I have put it back to my memory into this little cubby hole somewhere. Whenever I want, I can open it and say, this is a nail, and put it back. This is what I mean by knowledge of the nail.
Yes.
Okay. So now, any knowledge you look at, therefore, is a memory produced after understanding and put into a cubby hole.
Sure.
Now, if it is a memory, there is no memory in the present. There can only be memory in the past.
Sure.
You can't have a present memory, right? It's in the past, always, invariably. So therefore all our knowledge belongs to the past. And if there is a reality which is present now, now at the moment, it cannot be understood to any of these processes because they're all memory based and they're in the past, they're not in the present.
It may help you estimate the present, but it's all just all just knowledge. Yes.
It's just
right.
in a serial.
Yes, yes, yes.